Hi friend, welcome to Dispatches. I've been musing over the last few weeks around this theme of community. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is a story that a friend told me about some folk who turned back up to his church a couple of weeks ago after not being there through most of COVID. They'd been very, very active participants in the life of the church, a part of the community itself. And then when COVID came, they weren't there. So Mark welcomed them back, and they rather awkwardly said, well, they actually weren't coming back, or at least the way they used to. Over COVID, they had really got involved in other things that had grown important to them, and they didn't have time anymore for Sunday mornings. It made Mark wonder about what really was a church community. I was thinking about that. And then this fall, we had a street party on our street with lots of neighbors. And there was a couple with their teenage son who just moved in across the street from us. And we talked with each other. And I said to them, as soon as we've been able, we're going to have them over for pizza. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I looked across the street to see them packing their SUV for spring break. And I realized that we'd never got together. I hadn't gone over to invite them. Now, I could say that there were all those COVID restrictions, and besides, it was winter, and we usually don't go out the front of the house in wintertime. But they're pretty convenient excuses, to be honest. I had been plain too busy with my own stuff to connect. I'm musing now about community, what it is, and why do we pay lip service to it. As I mused on my experience, I realized that this desire for community, which is in all of us, is also right in front of us all the time. It's not complicated, and it's so incredibly rewarding. Community really is possible. It just takes a lot of effort and a readiness to change some of my habits. In my musings, I realized that just this week, the Spirit has been prompting me in some beautiful ways with the awareness that this is what God wants us to be doing as God's people, building community. I got a Facebook message this week from Denmark, and it filled me with joy. I was there several years ago sharing my sense of God's calling us to join Jesus in our neighborhoods, build community. The Facebook post was about just that, a movement of regular people discovering ways of joining God's mission by building community in their neighborhoods. They talked about simple practices of being with neighbors more than doing for, of listening to the neighbors and sharing life with them and asking what God was doing. Here, quietly off the radar, the Spirit is forming community with neighbors, and a different kind of church is being formed. Another friend of mine from Detroit was in touch with me this week, and he reminded me of something that he and a group of friends of his are doing in their neighborhood. They've started something called God Unfiltered. It's really, really simple. They arranged with some local businesses, a bar, an art gallery, a hair salon, etc. And people are invited to the facility to a Tell Us Your Experience of God evening. It's not a church program. There's no advertising. There's no promotion. And people come. They come because they know that listening is sacred. People listen. Conversations happen. And community starts to be formed. As I mused on this theme of community, my list of stories began to grow. Around the world, the Spirit is working in simple ways through many ordinary people to reweave the frayed threads of community. And there's nothing heroic or big about building community. I've been learning this all over again these past few months. We got 2 poodle puppies 3 months ago. They're gorgeous dogs, and I'm committed to training one of them, the male, Austin. So each day we go out into our neighborhood for an hour or so of a walk, and some things about these neighborhood walks with Austin are actually helping me understand again about building community. Here they are. Number one, These walks are not about me and what I want to accomplish or my agenda. I have to lay all that down. 2, I am continually focused on Austin, sensing what's happening to him and reassuring him, praising him and developing a sense of him, his rhythms, his fears, responses. It's not about me. Thirdly, I'm also becoming aware of the people on the street. Yesterday, for example, as I walked up a street a few blocks from here, a man was standing on the corner across the street looking at us. Now, I could easily have walked on with a quick smile and a wave of recognition, but I stopped with Austin, had him sit beside me. The man smiled and he walked forward and he made a comment about how beautiful Austin was. What I would have missed by walking on was that in this older man was a suppressed desire to touch, to put his hand gently on Austin's coat, to be with. I gave him a few treats to share and showed him where to pet the dog. It was a precious moment of connection on the street in the neighborhood. And as we parted, I knew inside of me that these kinds of moments are there all the time if I can just lay down my busyness and open my eyes to see the Spirit. In my musing, I thought, why are so many of us so anxious about fixing our churches or getting them back to some nostalgic normal when the Spirit is off on this kind of adventure and calling us to join God in our neighborhood, to build community? God be with you. Have a great day. Thank you.